All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome to Mark Anthony's Music Picks, episode 50. Big round number, episode 50. So for this one, I feel like I really had to bring something special for you guys. Today, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite dub techno labels of all time, and that is Echospace Detroit. Echospace Detroit is founded by Stephen Hitchell. A lot of people think that Stephen Hitchell and Rod Modell, aka Deep Chord, are co-running the label, but that's actually not the case. From the label standpoint, Echospace is entirely run by Stephen, and from a musical standpoint, the group or the band or the artist that's named Echospace is always Stephen and always Rod, but you have to differentiate between the label and the artist. Echospace has turned out to be one of the most influential dub techno labels of all time. They have a very strong cult following. If you guys read the dub techno forum on Discogs, you'll see that there's tons and tons of people that love Echospace's music. And you can go back and look through their old catalog, especially from maybe 2012 and backwards, and you can see that a lot of their releases have people commenting in a way that indicates to you that these records are very special to people. And there is something very special about an Echospace record. You just know that it was made with love and with special craft and care, and there's just a lot of heart that goes into them. I often think, what would happen if I ever lost my entire record collection somehow? And I think, what would I replace and what would I not replace? I think the first thing that I would replace, if anything ever happened to my record collection, would be my Echospace collection specifically, because it's just so good. Echospace didn't create from scratch the tape hiss and the washy dub techno sound, but they brought it to the forefront and they made it popular. It seems like for that washy whooshy kind of hypnotic ambient dub techno feel, they were the ones that really just blew it up and made it huge. So you got to thank them for that, and there's just a ton of creativity in their music. So today I'm going to go through 8 of my favorite Echospace records. I'm going to stick specifically to the records that were released on Echospace Detroit. I'm not going to touch on anything else that was Echospace related but may have been released on a different label. The first one I'm going to present to you guys is this one here. This is Subtractive, and this is by the artist CV313. Now, before I talk about Subtractive, I want to talk about CV313 and basically what they are and the history of that. So CV313 started out as an attempt by Rod Modell and Stephen Hitchell to be an anonymous artist, but somehow the artist names leaked and their attempt to be like ghost producers failed. So people got wind of it, and because they were trying to keep it on the sneak and it didn't work out, I think it actually helped to promote it kind of counterintuitively. But CV313 started out from a production standpoint as Stephen and Rod, and they worked on a lot of productions and projects together where they would create pieces of music, send it to the other person. Maybe Rod would send it to Steve, Steve would send it back to Rod. So it's not easy to discern which projects are Stephen, which ones are Rod, and which ones are a mix or how much. Even amongst Stephen and Rod, I've talked to Rod specifically, and he said that a lot of those tracks, he's not really sure who started it and who finished it, if that makes any sense. As you move forward through time in CV313's history, Rod became less involved with it. So now when you see a modern 2019, 2020 CV313 release, it's mostly Stephen, but there could also be the possibility that Stephen was using a piece that Rod created years and years ago. So you just really never know. So for the sake of simplicity, it's better to just say that CV313 is a duo, but who's working on what for any given project is up in the air. Back to this release, this is my first pick from the Echospace catalog, and it is Subtractive. Now, I love this. This is early Echospace, 2008. Comes in multicolored vinyl. This one's the brown one. I really like this one. There's a green one, and maybe a blue, I'm not sure, but great project. The feature that I love about this track is how the bass line is introduced. So when I first bought this record, I didn't know the track. I just bought it because somebody told me to get it. And I remember sitting and listening to it, and I had my sub turned on, and there's about 3 or 4 minutes of a wash intro where it's kickless, no beats, and it's just ambient. And I remember the sub bass just started to like introduce, but it's like, it's vague and it's ghostly and it's out of focus and kind of blurry, and you can't really, you're like, wait, what is that, right? And you're trying to get your ear like dialed in on it and you can't hear it fully, if that makes any sense. And then a couple minutes after that, the actual kick starts to drop and kind of releases that tension that was building up. But I remember how that moment felt, and I was like, man, that's a really, really sick record. It was ominous, and it just caught me off guard the way that they introduced those bass elements like that. This is 15 minutes and one of my favorite early Echospace Detroit releases, so check this one out, guys. My next pick also came out in 2008, and this was a really cool single. Well, it has 2 tracks on it. It's the Model 500 remixes. Now, I initially bought it for the Intrusion dub, which is on, I guess, the A side, and that is one of the only records in the Echospace catalog that is entirely beatless. I'm pretty sure from a vinyl standpoint, it's the only one that doesn't have kicks in it. But it's great for that reason, because if you're in a mood where you're too tired or it's too early and you just can't tolerate a kick drum anymore and you just want to like hear something nice to listen to in the background, the Intrusion dub will really do a nice job for you. I ended up really liking, however, the Mike Huckabee synth remix that's on the other side. And from, you guys saw I did the Mike Huckabee tribute video earlier this year when he passed away, unfortunately, but this is something from his Warehouse Banger catalog. Mike had a lot of different styles that he would do. He would do deep house and disco, and then he would do the Warehouse Bangers. This one's a banger. Now, to somebody new listening to this Huckabee version, you might find that it feels a little bit overly simplified. And that's kind of the nature of Mike's Detroit influenced productions. It's simple, but it hooks you in its simplicity. And Mike always had really well-tuned, punchy Detroit kick drums, so don't judge this maybe on your first listen if you've never listened to a Huckabee record before. This is one that takes a little bit of time to soak in, but after a few listens and turning it up loud and imagining like a harder context for it, I think you'll see that this is actually a brilliant track. towards the end, it just gets really good with the punchy kick drum and the way the elements are all cooking together. It's just awesome. Still moving forward through time here. I put these all in chronological order for you guys. The next one I want to talk about was a huge release on Echospace. This is another CV313 record, and the single was called Seconds to Forever. Seconds to Forever is a nice track, but the one that everybody went crazy over for this was Beyond the Clouds on the B-side. This was the original press of it, and you get the nice Coke bottle, clear, almost clear plastic, and I love this. And if you read the reviews for this on the original record, people were just going bananas over it. Number one, because it's a 23-minute record, and it was a feat in and of itself to have 23 minutes of cleanly pressed music put on one 12-inch. So just the process of making this and getting 23 minutes of music on the vinyl, achievement unlocked right there. But the other reason that people went nuts over it is because it didn't sound like anything else that Echospace had put out. It has a floatier, loopier vibe to it, and because it's 23 minutes long, the elements are allowed to sit and percolate and change in a more minimal fashion, almost like a drawn-out Ricardo Villalobos record where the effects are felt slowly. But people are saying that, you know, if they had one record to listen to for the rest of their lives, this would be it. People are saying, I want to have this played at my funeral. So, you know, when you see people talking like that about it, something really resonated with them. So I hope you guys enjoy the sample for that as well. Now we're up to 2011. Another CV313 release came out, and it was called Standing Still. I remember ordering this immediately. I bought it blind, and I fell in love with the B-side. There's a reduced mix on the B-side. It's a very minimal aesthetic, small amount of elements, and it's just sparse. It's very sparse. To me, when I listen to this, I picture, this is weird, but I picture early planet formation, like the early stages of Earth. There's a flanger that kind of draws out in the background, and it sounds like a meteor coming through like the proto-atmosphere. And then the dub element hits with the reverb on it, and it sounds like that's when the meteor impacted the planet. And there's bits of electricity kind of sparking off in the background, like the atmosphere is angry and it's unsettled and it's uneven, so there's lightning everywhere. That's what this sounds like to me. I called this when this came out. I said people are going to go nuts over the B-side, and if you read some of the reviews on Discogs, you'll see that people actually agreed with me that the B-side on this was a total killer. Now we're up to 2012, and Echospace drops a monumental album. They do Silent World. I love this album. I remember I bought this one totally blind, and it turned out to be totally worth it. I got to the B side and the track Rippling really caught me off guard. I was like, wow, that's really different. And I think Rippling had Rod Modell's influence. It's more of a club oriented track. It has a really I guess spooky, I know I use that word a lot, but it's a very spooky, dark melody going on in it, and a little bit of tribal percussion just to give it like a slow chug. I like pitching Rippling down a little bit because I feel like it just draws that darkness out of it, and it draws the darkness out of me. The whole album's good, but if you really want the standout from this, it is the track Rippling on the B-side. All right, now moving into 2015, Echospace re-released Dimensional on this remix pack. It was a live take from Club Air in Tokyo, Japan. And I don't know what was in the air that night at Club Air, but this remix turned out great. It had really high energy, and if you compare this version of Dimensional to the original version of Dimensional, it's very hard to even tell that they're the same track. It's not like this is a slight rework. This is a total redo. And quite frankly, if it wasn't named Dimensional, I would have no idea that it was correlated to the original. But this is probably the most high energy track that I'm gonna post for you guys today, outside of that Mike Huckabee remix, but probably the most high energy track that Deep Chord and Echospace have ever released. I just love how the drums hit, and towards the end it really just picks up momentum and picks up a head of steam, and it's like you can't stop it. It's such a great remix. I remember sitting and listening to that record with my friend, and she wasn't even into dub techno at the time, and she was like, can you send me that? Can you send me a link to that? I really like that one. So, you know, if it gets somebody that's not in the dub techno realm interested, there's something special going on there. Now I believe this is a 2016 release. CV313 had the Seconds to Forever release back in 2010, but Rod and Steve came back and remixed it in 2016. So there was an Intrusion dub and 2 Deep Chord remixes on it. The one that really got me hooked was Deep Chord's Mix 1. And Deep Chord Mix 1 to me sounds like a very proud horse walking down a cobblestone street. The way that there's like almost like a clip-clop sound like of the hooves hitting the street. And that is the hook element in this track that really makes it stand out from the rest. I know that sounds crazy, but if you listen to it, it kind of does sound like a horse walking. Also, Rod's remix on the B-side that took up the whole B-side was really good too, but it just wasn't as much of a standout as Deep Chord Mix 1, but really a gem in their catalog. And last but not least is a Phase 90 remix of Infinitati. Now, Infinitati came out in 2015, and Intrusion, aka Stephen Hitchell, came back and did a rework of it in 2019. And this is the most recent vinyl that Echospace has released, and as far as I know, there hasn't been anything since then. But this one sounds great. Not too many standout elements to talk about, but it does have a really nice groove that I just love to sit and chill to. I've rocked this many times late at night, and I can't say that, oh, it sounds like this or it sounds like that, other than this is a classic Echospace record that just has really nice groove and nice bass, and it really has an infectious pull that gets you into it. All right, that's all I have for this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Enjoy your Black Friday. Instead of spending money on Amazon.com, just go to Discogs and buy a few Echospace records. I'm sure you won't regret it. Take care. Bye.